Hello, welcome to Pianolin TV, your classical music podcast. This is your host, Alexander Bowie, joined by co-host Jeremy Al. And today we have spectacular guests, two guests especially. We only had one guest usually on every podcast, but these two have teamed up. They're both from Seoul, Korea, and they're with us today from New York City. Hi, Rachel, and hi, JaeHee.
Hello. Thank you for having
These
us.
two wonderful pianists. Rachel has graduated from a Juilliard and Peabody Conservatory, and she is finishing up her doctoral studies at Mason Gross School of the Arts at Rutgers University. And JaeHee has graduated from the Manhattan School of Music. And have you graduated from Rutgers as well, or you're still in your doctoral studies?
I'm still in my doctoral studies.
Regardless, these both are very spectacular. They just recently got back from Korea performing a piano duo concert, which I was very privileged to watch, and it was wonderful performances. They're here today to talk about their organization, Gatchi, which I have no idea what it is, but it is full of concert experiences, anti-Asian hate crimes, Korean contemporary piano music, all of the good stuff that we don't hear in the United States. So please, the stage is yours. Either one of you can speak first or both of you at the same time.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Just kidding. So let me briefly talk about what Gatchi means. The Gatchi is a Korean word, has double meaning. The first meaning is together, and the second meaning is value. So we picked the name because we want to make music or like a musical activity which is like valuable to the society or the community that we are living now. And then we want to do it together with other musicians or other artists. So that's why we picked the name. And so basically we started when was our first concert? May in New York. So it was a response to the Asian hate crimes.
Right. As Asians, we saw Asians being attacked for absolutely no reason, like on the streets and in the trains. So we felt the fear in 24/7. So we couldn't take the train, or just we had to be scared just walking on the street just for being an Asian.
But like everyone says that, even like as a musician, I always proclaim that, oh, music is the international word, language that doesn't need to be translated or doesn't need to be understood because it doesn't have any words. So that's why I came up with this idea of setting up the organization. And then another reason, of course, is the BTS. BTS became so popular.
But BTS, for them, they're Asians, but they're so popular everywhere around the world because the musical language is reaching to people. No matter of the language that they speak. The whole story is that we just wanted to use the music as a universal language and use that as a tool for creating opportunities to use the music for a cause.
So we just wanted to draw the awareness to the unconscious bias. Everyone has unconscious bias. That can be against Asian or Black or like whomever different from us. Like we unconsciously have that. And then to fight that, just to find the similarity between us, but also celebrate the differences. That's why our last concert featured composers from 3 different Asian countries, Korea and Japan and China.
Our goal was to You know, as musicians, we thought we can start like promoting the works by composers who are neglected and forgotten, even though their music has so much worth and value in it. And if we as performers are not bringing those works to stage and having those works promoted, then it's just going to be like that forever. So somebody has to take actions to start, playing it.
Right. I think so. First, after I set up this idea, I was searching for the pieces, like works by Asian living composers. And then I felt ashamed that I didn't know that much about any of Korean living composers, because I was so used to study and practice and play all the standard repertoire. So we spent days to search for the new music.
Yes. And even the research part was not so easy, because for like mainstream composers' works or Western composers, there are many databases that we can actually search. But for Asian composers, there really wasn't much. And even if we found a piece that we were really interested looking at, we just couldn't get our hands on the score because it was just not there. And the publishers for these Asian composer contemporary music, a lot of them were by small publisher companies, mainly in their own countries. So there was just no way to get our hands on the score while we were in the US. So a lot of the scores for, say, for Korean composers, we had to get the scores in Korea.
And then we had to contact the composers directly and then ask for permission and then ask where we get the music. And then like some composers, they're like, I don't know you, first of all. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but majority of the composers that we contacted were very, very enthusiastic about their works being played. And they all provided all necessary information about the piece, including the score, and they all welcomed any like performance instruction inquiries, etc.
So I think it's our duty and then responsibility to promote and then discover the works by our works from my own country. Because otherwise no one is going to play, and then if we are not playing, then no one going to listen.
And we also thought even the mainstream composers' works that we play all the time, those were all new works at some point when they were all out there for the first time. And a lot of them could have been controversial. Many people could not have liked it.
Yeah, like Beethoven.
Right, just like that. And so if these new works aren't out there, they are missing the opportunity even just to be, to be judged.
And then I think, of course, I hate COVID. No one appreciate COVID. Everyone struggles so much as musician. But anyway, so it's good to see we are getting back to normal. But as everyone says, it's going to be new normal. We are not going to go back to the before COVID. But in a way, I think as musicians, we sought for new ways to promote classical music.
And in Korea, the concert that we did at IPAC, we did that through YouTube.
There are many Korean composers. Do you know any Korean composers, Alex or Jeremy?
I think David Jung did his essay on. I think it started with a C, the name.
Oh, okay.
So I think most of us.
Oh, Unsik.
Oh,
Chin, yes,
Ah,
he's more of
okay,
the
yes.
mainstream famous ones, just
Right.
like Lee Sang-yoon, but so many of us don't know anything beyond that. And we got to know so many Korean composers and their works while we were studying and researching for works by Asian composers. And I think we discovered that there are so much good qualities in these works.
The music that we found is atonal, like really, really atonal. And it takes time to practice and then learn the piece. And then most of the time there aren't that many recording available. So it takes more time to analyze it and then, the way to perform it. Especially the Korean contemporary music, it's like heavily German influenced.
Yes,
Because of
maybe I think up till like maybe 1950s, a lot of Korean composers at up till that generation were almost all of them, I would say, were studying in Germany, and they would come back to Korea to work. So their majority of their works are inevitably just heavily influenced Germanically. So you can really, really hear that. So they're very atonal and experimental.
and a very technically demanding. The other side of the music contains a lot of the traditional, the Korean traditional tunes or Korean traditional characteristic, like the rhythmic characteristic or like the soulful singing style. So yeah, we would love to cover not only the technically demanding pieces, but also the easy listening pieces so that it can, reach to the broad audience. It's not only for the, the musicians or the specific audience. That's our goal.
Yep.
And so what kind of project do you have upcoming with your group?
So we have a Korean composers works concert that we are trying to plan right now. And we are trying to keep doing these projects using the concerts as as an opportunity to use our music to be used for a cause. So our upcoming themes include American composers, contemporary music, because we are now in US and we want to promote works by American composers as well.
And then also student composers. And then we obtained the music from the composer in Korea while we were in Korea. We contacted, as I told you before, we contacted the composer and then I obtained the music. It's not on the market. So we will perform. So through my project, through my search, I found this amazing Korean composer that I didn't know about. Her name is Youngja Lee. She's 91 years old, but she's still composing. She's still actively performing everywhere. And she studied with Messiaen. And then, in like because of our historical background, no one, and especially if a woman couldn't study, couldn't afford to study for even,
especially so in Asia.
Yeah, like study abroad was almost impossible. But she went to Paris to study with Messiaen when in like 1950 in Korea is we just finished the war, and then everyone was starving. There was not enough rice, but she went to Paris and then studied composition as a woman, and then that was really incredible. So we will play her two of her two piano pieces, and then also
Other women composers' works.
Yeah.
Because we
This is all great. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So at our previous concerts, actually there were many women composers pieces, women composers who are Asian. So we are trying to do another concert that are exclusively Asian women composers. I think that can really mean something.
And then I would love to encourage other musicians, like Jeremy, I know you have Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you can find more about like Japanese composer, and then I'll let you too. So I never heard of any like composer from your country. Can you give us any like names?
In Vietnam, I'm not sure either. It's not very popularized here. I think many Asian composers are not popularized in the United States.
Right.
I think it's due to the limitations of East Asian people coming here more of like as performers, but not
Right.
coming here more to study
Yeah.
compositions. So I feel that there's like a big gap, as you said, and even you guys, you're natives of Korea, but you don't know many Korean composers.
So yeah.
So this raises the question, we were talking about what is it like to be a composer in the 21st century in one of our previous episodes, and we had the privilege to talk with Aris from Cyprus, which is located in Europe. And styles of cultures are really different. If you're talking about the most popular music like Albanese or Brahms, or even Shostakovich, all of those music, the people who wrote them, the composers, they're also unique. And in the classical music world, I think it's since we're living in contemporary world and all the technology is all available to us, I think it's a lot more easier and accessible, and it's a great thing you two are doing, bringing attention to Asian composers, and especially the musics has not been published yet, or they can't find performers to play. If you write music and you don't have people to play them, it's pretty much useless.
Like goal when we were in college, right? Like how we can be differentiated with other, like Bach, it's the same Bach, but it has to be Rachel's Bach. That's what my teacher always said. Where's Rachel's Bach? I don't hear Rachel. Like, oh, okay, maybe there's no Rachel. But it's hard. I think it's not easy because not many people will accept it. I know that, but if we just keep doing that, then who knows?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think in a way it's just that like we learned that we discovered that while we were planning for these concerts that we told our musician friends that, oh, we are doing this, and a lot of them were very interested and all wanted to take part in the future. And even the composers, they were so supportive. I mean, there's just so much that composers can do, right? After they write a piece, no matter how good it is, they need the performance to play it on the stage. So I think that's the most that a performer can do as a contribution and sharing our talents.
Yeah, and then I think
that's
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I should be sorry. You guys are still talking.
No, I mean, I think it's a little too cheesy, but I also got the I never worn the Korean traditional clothes costume because I thought that's very uncomfortable. But actually, I got a modernized. We call our traditional.
Yeah, it's a traditional costume. And,
Costume is called a hanbok.
Yeah.
But so I got the two pairs of hanbok, the modernized hanbok, so that I can wear it
For the
while we are
concerts.
doing
It's
concert.
beautiful.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's great. Wearing traditional clothing, embracing, your heritage, and
Mhm.
especially you're performing Korean music, Korean classical music. That's something beautiful, and it's something that should be a little bit more exposed to the general public. And I'm pretty sure, like, the listeners here are very intrigued about Korean classical music. I'm guessing, I don't know, over 80% of the US have not heard of Korean classical music. I haven't heard much.
98%.
I want to open this up. Some of the listeners here might be intrigued to follow in your footsteps. Maybe different parts of their country where they're from. And what advice would you give to them if they were to think about, oh, I want to find out more about my country, and if they have any composers in the classical field, contemporary, and how to help my fellow composers?
I would say that we didn't know where to start when we first started as well. We wanted to make a repertoire list for our concerts, but we were a little bit lost. But we actually did a lot of research. I think everyone should do some research because we don't know much about these. So it takes some time to study about the composers and their works, and just be aware that there aren't many recordings or scores available. So you wouldn't be you wouldn't be able to listen to these works before you actually play them. So for many of these works, we just had to contact the composers first, and then obtain the scores and played it ourselves to see what it sounds and feels like. So I think that's the first step. And as you keep doing that, you sort of get a grip of what each composer's styles are like. Because just like Western composers, all composers have their unique characteristics in their piece. So if you, I think as you do that, you can come up with a couple composers that you want to play and interested in. And there's a big chance that if you contact those composers, you can maybe build a really good relationship, and they can, give you suggestions or instructions for your performance to help you out, and even suggest other pieces that you can play.
Yeah, I will say be brave, because for me, I am a very timid person. I'm a very shy person.
Something that we're used
to
doing.
I contacted like so many composers, and then only few of them, reply me back. And so, but I just kept writing, and then ask, and then so just don't give up, even if they don't treat you as how you expected. But and then just keep writing, because that the composer that I mentioned before, Jae Lee, the 91 years old Korean composer. So I ended up meeting her in her place in Korea, and then we spent 4 hours, and then we had tea together, and it was so great opportunity and experience for me. I will never forget. So just keep doing, keep writing.
You should start taking actions.
Wow, that's a great way to end this episode. Don't give up, be brave, and take risk, especially if you want to achieve something that you believe in. This is Rachel Choo and Jae Hee Min, natives of Seoul, Korea, and currently in New York City. So if you we will have a description of them and their works, their performances. So please go check them out. This is such an exciting opportunity. We're living in a contemporary age of classical music, and with technology on the rise, there is so much more that we can discover. Although the standard repertoire is great and all, we can always listen to them, but something fresh and inspiring and something that's on the unknown is sometimes very surprising and relaxing. You may never know. You may find your next favorite composer in the contemporary world. So this is Alexander Bui, your host of Pianolin TV. Jeremy, our co-host. Thank you all for listening. We've been having spectacular, wonderful artists of all different cultures, ethnicities, and heritage, different fields of music as well. If you guys really love the discussions we're having, please support us. We're on YouTube, like and subscribe, and also our podcast platforms. It's a new schedule. It's just a reminder. It's on Thursdays. We no longer do Tuesdays. However, Tuesdays now have Teaching Tuesdays. So there'll be Jeremy and I will be, doing a little mini episodes, clips of teaching. If you're ever interested in playing an instrument, and who knows, maybe we'll have other guests go on Teaching Tuesdays as well. Thank you all. Thank you both again, Rachel and JaeHee, for being here with us for Pianolin TV. And see you everyone next Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.